apparently this is where we are. Wait, let me see where we are. Actually, I have no idea where we are. I can't read Juan's maps. Because his name is Ponce de Leon, but his first name is Juan. So I call him Juan. Alright, so I don't know if you all can see it, but that's the Fountain of Youth, supposedly. We're just going to go ahead and actually drink out of this. Let me take off my mask and set that right there for just a second. Oh my god. This is not going to make me stay young forever, obviously, but I'm going to try it anyway, just to see if it works. Let me try this. Oh my god, that is disgusting. That tastes worse than the toilet. Oh my god, that is nasty. I don't know where they got that water from, and I don't want to know.
My name is John Fraser, and I'm going to take you back in time, but not as far as you might imagine. While our presentation is about 16th and 17th century voyages of Spanish exploration, I'd like for you to come with me back to the year 1956. That was the year that American culture transformed in ways it never had before. We'd emerged from World War II in a frenzy of hype over nuclear war. Western movies were being replaced by sci-fi thrillers at America's drive-in theaters. Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett were waning in interest to Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. The space race was on. Even at Disneyland, where we could explore Frontierland, Adventureland, and Fantasyland, by 1956, the #1 attraction there was Tomorrowland, where all the rides and venues aimed us toward the stars. This abrupt shift in American culture gave Walter B. Fraser, my grandfather, and owner of the world's oldest existing theme park, a lot to think about. Oh, what's that? Oldest existing theme park? Yep, the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park, with recorded guests dating back as far as 1868. Now, how was Granddad going to take a society that was focused on rockets and manned space flights and reinterest them in our nation's oldest history? Well, his first thought was the planetarium right next door. Now, planetariums were fairly common, but he could have one programmed to illustrate how ancient sailors navigated by the stars and show folks the exact alignment of the heavens the night before Ponce de Leon landed. But that simply wasn't the bang he was looking for. Walter Fraser wanted to give his guests something new, something fresh, something they'd never seen, somewhere that they'd never been before. A front row seat in outer space. You see, it would be another 5 years before Yuri Gagarin made his historic space flight in 1961. So in 1956, we'd never seen the Earth from space before. He wanted a theater that placed his guests there, and right where you're sitting, in outer space. Let folks see the Earth from a viewpoint that no one had ever seen before. But how? Typical flat screen and 3D movies about outer space were being done to death. He wanted more. He wanted a huge orb, 2 stories tall, that would turn on its axis just as the Earth did, to show the history of Spanish exploration in the New World. There was one problem. The technology for such a production didn't exist. Not even the best special effects people in Hollywood could help. While most people would have given up, thrown in the towel, Walter Frazier decided that if the technology didn't exist, then he'd invent it. And he did. It took him 3 more years to design the equipment and projection system and then build this theater around it. He brought his special effects extravaganza together in such a way that the Smithsonian Institution, who'd worked with Granddad on archaeological digs here in the park in the past, sought his assistance with their own intended oversized display of Earth and its revolving moon. In fact, this is a model of the project that they sent him back in 1958. By the way, this show will not amaze you. Let me repeat that. This show will not amaze you, at least by today's standards. Even though we have just finished the first renovation on this exhibit since it was built, there is no digital or computer-generated graphics or even Hollywood magic. But in 1960, when the doors first opened, it was standing room only. People were amazed. Yes, this is a museum piece. A museum piece that would be in the Smithsonian right now if it weren't so big.
In the beginning, the earth was without form and void. As eons of time passed, our world gradually assumed its present appearance, and the continents emerged from the dark waters. Slowly, the Western Hemisphere assumed its present form. Plants, animals, and eventually man appeared on the earth. From its primitive beginning, humanity slowly advanced in civilization and culture. Some 3,000 years ago, on these very grounds, the site of an ancient Indian village, man had developed a civilization, which is shown by archaeological remains. Then, suddenly, more than 4 centuries ago, a new culture arrived from Europe. The epical events which took place in rapid succession after Columbus discovered the New World marked the beginning of radical changes that took place on both sides of the Atlantic. The discovery of new lands to the west widened the horizon of the Old World. Unlimited interest was aroused by this new view across the sea. The magnitude of the discovery was soon realized, and the name New World was applied in general to these new lands. Through the ensuing years of exploration, settlement, expansion, development, and finally independence, the 2 continents, North and South America, have become an integral part of international life, and they are still generally referred to as the New World. The second voyage of great importance was that of Columbus in 1493, when he was accompanied by Juan Ponce de Leon. The landing was made on Hispaniola. From this island, Ponce de Leon went on to the island of Puerto Rico to found a settlement and become governor of the island. Another famous voyage in American history was that of Ponce de Leon in 1513, when he anchored his 3 ships within sight of present St. Augustine Harbor on April the 2nd and named his discovery La Florida. On April the 3rd, he landed and took possession for Spain. This was the first formal possession taken of any part of what is now the continental United States. The 4th epical event in the Western Hemisphere was the discovery in 1513 of the Pacific Ocean by Vasco Muñoz de Balboa. The voyages of Columbus led to the colonization of the West Indies, Cuba, the northern coast of South America, Central America, and Mexico. The voyage of Ponce de Leon resulted in the discovery of the Gulf Stream, led to the explorations by de Ayllon, Cabeza de Vaca, de Soto, and Coronada, and later to the founding in 1565 of St. Augustine by Pedro Menendez de Alves as the capital of Spain's continent of Florida, which extended from the River of Palms, Rio Grande, to Labrador, and embraced all the area of the present continental United States of America. The discovery of the Pacific Ocean by Balboa led to the conquest of Peru by Pizarro, the settlement of Chile and Ecuador, the exploration of the Amazon River and the coast of California. The small numbered circles on the globe show the location of some 100 of the settlements made and of the 3 universities founded in the Western Hemisphere prior to 1599, and are numbered in the chronological order of their establishment. The 3 universities founded were the University of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic in 1538, the University of San Marcos in Peru in 1551, and the National University of Mexico in 1551, respectively. It was not until the beginning of the 17th century that England, Holland, and other European nations began to found New World colonies in Spanish territory. You have just witnessed the unique historical highlights of the phenomenal discovery, exploration, and establishment of the first permanent European settlements, and the development of civilization during the first century of European progress in the New World. You have followed the routes of conquest and expansion. You have seen how the centers of Spanish and Portuguese civilization were established chronologically during this greatest of centuries, which witnessed so many world-shaking events. Today, the 21 countries civilized by Europeans in the New World have provided the Old World with a continuing cultural stimulus of ideas and ideals. So, Florida, which is synonymous with Fountain of Youth, and once embraced all of North America from the Rio Grande to the frigid lands of Labrador, was dedicated to peace, and the name Florida changed to the United States of America.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Ben, look at the tools we use for barbecue.
Sterling with the Institute staff set up camp and excavated some 47 Catholic burials of Jerusalem. We determined these Indian inheritance were of the first Spanish occupational period, occurring while this portion of the Indian town was occupied as the first colony of civilization. The remains, which are buried just as
hold root for years and years. However, on November 14, 1991, a rebuild and a full tank
Look at all these birds. So many birds. Carolina birds, which I don't know why they're mentioning that in Florida. Easterns, northerns, commons, northerns again, Indians, blue jays, easterns. So many birds.
Can you tell us the Catholic Church? This is the way you do the holy water in the walk.
The easiest way to get holy water is to boil the hell out of it.
Now, when Pedro Mendez got here in 1565, he brought with him 8 blacksmiths in colony. I mean that literally. See those rectangular stretches out there? Those are rephrased where archaeologists told us those used to be the homes for Spanish soldiers. Now, to build those homes, the blacksmiths, they made the saws, cut down the trees, turtle, lumber, hammers, nails, hinges, handles, latches for doors, bars for windows, hoops for barrels, horseshoes, plows, rakes, shovels, cooking limits, chains, hooks. Everybody needs something to blacksmith. However, notice I'm not talking about the weapons in the armor. Turns out the swords in the armor were not made here. Yep. You see, Pedro Mendez knew their head did, in fact, 52 years the Spanish coming here to Florida, then trying to start a colony, and then dying. Pedro Mendez was not going to add his name to that list, so he brought with him all the weapons and armor he was going to need, and then some. Even after the colony was established, truth be told, the great old Spanish Empire, and a place that kind of a bad reputation of being in the swamps in the middle of nowhere. No great swordsmiths ever set up shop here. Well, we made with stuff for everyday life. In order to make this stuff, we have to get the metal nice and hot. What you're seeing me burn here today is regular old parchment charcoal. Same thing we find in a barbecue. So what the Spanish would have been using for it as a sandbar, there's no coal under here. So, And the barbecue hardwood charcoal gets up to about 600 or 700 degrees. Here with these bellows right here for the fire, they get a whole lot hotter. They're actually 2,500 degrees. That is too hot because that is so hot the metal becomes liquid and molten. You don't put liquid metal on an anvil, so I'm going to stop at a nice cool temperature about 1,800 degrees. But these are a whole lot of temperatures this man did not have 450 years ago. Come on, let's tell you anything better than a warm day. So we go by the color of the metal. All right. Now I'm going to direct you all to finish this little board that I have right here. Show you steps that I go through there. Step number 1, get the metal nice and hot. Step number 2, hammer it flat. Step number 3, put it on a side, hammer it flat again to make it square. Step number 4, draw it down to a point. I will be doing all 3 of those steps right now here on the anvil before we turn it back to the fire. All right. So first, hammer it flat in one direction. Up on its side, hammer it flat the other way. Draw it down to a point. Clean that out a little bit. Take out some lumps. Hot pointed metal stick. Lots of things you do with a hot pointed metal stick, but it's still not a nail. To make a nail out of it needs to be shorter. To be sure to right to cut metal, but remember, we're still talking about 450 years ago. Not using anything really advanced. We use this as what's called a hot cut, because it's used for cutting hot metal, and you can tell they thought real long and hard about that name. Instead of being hammered down like a chisel, it goes right there in the anvil. Now this time I'm trying to do that. The end of that nail is still a little bit further back, get it nice and soft, ready for the cut. There we go. Now this is what we call a rolling cut. You see here I'm not trying to cut all the way through the metal. In fact, leave a small piece in the very center there, which is still just barely hanging on. There we go. Like about so. Now I'm going to hang it up one last time with that very thin piece right there. Now I'm running that vise over there, twist it off, and then put a head on the nail. Now you might look at that vise and go, wait, did they really have a vise like that 450 years ago? Turns out they did. We've had them engravings going back over 600 years. Now, the most important part, made out of metal, has a post going all the way down to the ground. That's a good thing because in the blacksmith shop, you need that post. Hit the thing with a vise, hit the vise with a hammer all day long. Then leave that sitting on the top, put a head on the nail, crank that down like so, twist that off. There we go. And now you put a head on the nail by hitting the nail on the head. It's a blacksmith shop. You expected something other than dad jokes? Alright. Now that is still very, very hot. Hot enough to burn this piece of wood, hot enough to burn my hand. So instead of using my hand, use these tongs right here. Yet another tool we made in our shop. As I mentioned, we like to work with metal, nice glowing orange yellow color, but not this color because you can't tell how hot it is. First rules of safety, assume everything back here can burn you. Second rule, something drops, don't catch it. And that's how you end up with a perfectly good colonial nail.
That's so cool.
Now that took longer than it would take historically. Historically, you wouldn't be stopping and explaining as you go along to do the process. Also, our blacksmiths were tool makers. We make a jig known as a swedge block. Help us make it. Using that, we can make a nail in about 30 seconds. And usually make about 200 to 300 of those in a day. People ask me if I get tired of making the nails, not like the folks back then. Hey, look, it works. All right. So, questions, anyone?
No, you did it all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll leave you with one last little piece of trivia. The reason why the name is John's Blacksmith is not the color of my hands, instead the color of the metal. Iron and steel unpolished have a sort of black color, and we're known as the black metals. The word smith comes from the old English word smite, meaning to hit things like hit black metals. Thank you all for visiting me, your blacksmith. Thank you.
I can't explain to you guys what this is. I'm just gonna move on. This is only one thing out of literally everything else we have to go through. So, yeah, I'm just gonna go ignore that. I'm not too sure what that is meant for. Yeah, we're just gonna move on. Oh my gosh, look at that beautiful flag. I'm not too sure what this is meant for either. I'm pretty sure these are prehistoric cannons. And a nice flag. Okay, moving on. Oh, actually, wait. Oh, this is from the 18th, 17th and 18th. I'm just gonna take a picture of that for you guys.
Cannon. Nothing like the ones Pedro Menendez are bringing. The ones Menendez is bringing are much older. They're last century's cannons. They're guns from the 1300s, the 1400s. It's the 16th century. It's a good 200 years old at that point. They are old and obsolete. They've been replaced by cast iron and cast bronze guns. Now the big kicker with these guns is they're big, powerful guns. Some of them can shoot outwards to 3 miles. They've got really good muzzle velocity. That cannonball's really moving from the gun. And it's a big cannonball. The ones he's bringing don't do any of that. They do have some advantages though. They're much older. They're a lot more dangerous. We'll go about the disadvantages first. They're quite weak. Against 16th century ships, they're pretty worthless. Let's see. Weak. They don't shoot cannonballs as hard. They don't have as much velocity. What else? They're really, really dangerous, honestly. That's about it. They don't sound that good, right? Well, they are. Because they're a very unique design. They did not have the technology to cast a large piece of iron. Not yet. They did not do this sort of thing. So that gun is made out of 3 parts. You've got the barrel, you've got the powder mug, you've got the breech block. How it works, my powder, my wadding goes into the breech of the gun, into the powder mug. That goes into the breech, lower the breech block down, roll cannonball down barrel, prime and fire. Each gun would have 4, maybe 5 of those. They'd be ready to go. You're not loading them at the gun. Powder mugs over and over and over again. Some guys will be reloading them, bringing them back up to the gun line. Just keep going 3 to 4 rounds a minute versus 1, maybe 2. It's very, very light. Weighs about 900 pounds. We'll get to why that's important in a second. And they were cheap. Those are your advantages with these guns compared to the newer ones. Now you can fire as fast as you want, and that wouldn't matter if the cannonballs aren't moving fast enough to actually do damage. If they're not big enough to punch holes in large ships. Now again, why would you bring this gun? You need to. It's a necessity. This gun barrel right here is probably about, I don't know, at least a ton. They tend to be closer to 2-3 tons a barrel. That gun back there is about 900 pounds. What's easier to manhandle in those small boat? 3,000 pounds or 900 pounds that is mostly in the wooden carriage? The barrel itself for that gun's probably only 200-300 pounds. Guess what? The 900 pound gun that can be taken apart. You're loading everything into boats like that chalupa over there because the inlet's only 9.5 feet deep. Menendez knew that. That's why he chose to fortify over here instead of on the island. To get in, you're coming around the island through the channel from 4 miles away. No big ship with big guns is getting anywhere near here. What's getting near here are those small boats, and when this little guy hits that traveling at 400 miles per hour, it's going to mess it up. It's going to punch right through it. Cannonballs don't explode, but it will look like an explosion. And it will sink a boat of that size quite easily. Especially when there's 60 to 80 of those flying every single minute at 400 miles per hour. Now the formula to shoot a cannonball of any weight and size, shape, whatever you want to call it. Whether it's chain shot, bar shot, grape shot, round shot, hail shot, is take the weight of the shot and use about 1/3 of its weight in black powder. You got 6 pounds of shot. You're looking at 1.5 pounds of black powder behind it. You got 9, you're looking at 3. 12, 4. So on and so forth. Real simple. We have not loaded the gun with a pound of black powder, 1.5 pound of black powder. We're not even near that. We're also not shooting a cannonball because that would be dangerous for the people that are downrange. It will be loud but not deafening. I still suggest you cover your ears. See so, see? Oh, right up. Run ya. Way up. That was 2 ounces of black powder. Yes, 2 ounces. Anyways, guys, that concludes our demonstration. If you got any questions, feel free to stick around and ask. If not, Nick is in the blacksmith shop. Jake will be doing a demo in about 10 minutes with the firearms. The tower will be open. We just ask that you go up one at a time. Well, one group at a time.
Yeah. After we talk to
You're welcome.
just put your mask on.
Yeah, start it up.
Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and walk up here. Oh, it's a map of, I guess, what this used to look like, or maybe what it looks like over there. Okay, this is a lot of stairs. I'm just gonna record this. Okay, we're here. Oh yeah, the map does show what it looks like up here. This reminds me of the Everglades, except prettier and older. Wow, this is an amazing